Joining me now from Las Cruces, New Mexico, law professor, former Trump administration Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy and Economic Development, and candidate for United States Senate, Gavin Clarkson. Gavin, you worked in the administration. The 45th president is turning out to be a very pro-First Amendment president. By that, I mean defense of religious liberty. For example, his initiative to put prayer back in public schools, but he's also the most pro-life president, maybe since 1973, Roe versus Wade.
Absolutely. And first of all, thanks for having me on. It is without question, this is the most pro-life president we've ever had. I was honored to be at the National March for Life in D.C. And I was there in the audience when President Trump came on stage as the first president to ever address the March for Life. But his administration's policies on religious liberty are unparalleled because religious liberty is under assault all around the world, particularly in places like China. And this president has made no bones about it. He stands for religious liberty. So that's the entirety of the First Amendment.
As I mentioned, you worked in the administration for a time, the Trump administration, as a policy advisor. As far as the economy is concerned, obviously we're in a sweet spot, maybe one of the greatest sweet spots in American economic history. Again, part of this is due certainly to the policies of the 45th president. In particular, one stands out to me, Gavin, and I would imagine you probably had a hand or a couple of fingers in this at least. I call him maybe the greatest deregulation president of our time.
Absolutely. I was Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy and Economic Development in the Department of Interior. And for every one regulation we put forward, we rolled back 22. And many of those regulations that we rolled back were Obama-era regulations that were trying to strangle the energy industry. And here in New Mexico, we are wholly dependent on the oil and gas. If it weren't for the oil and gas industry, we would be bankrupt as a state. And yet we have Democrats in the state that want to outlaw fracking, including my likely Democrat opponent in the U.S. Senate race, Nancy Pelosi's Assistant Speaker, Ben Ray Lujan.
Right.
You know, the Democrats are all in for the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, pretty much any bad socialist idea you want to come up with. And a lot of that they would try and implement through regulation. But this president is, in fact, the deregulator in chief.
And you are the progeny, if you will. You studied under Alan Dershowitz. You were his student at one point. Of course, we know Alan Dershowitz helped defend the President of the United States against an hyper-constitutional impeachment process. But you're running for Senate in the land of enchantment, in the great state of New Mexico. This has a Cook rating, we should point out. The state does. Likely to solid Democrat. Senator Tom Udall, when he ran last in 2014, got 55% of the vote. As you mentioned, your likely opponent on the Democrat side is Ben Ray Lujan. His Liberty score is F 14%. F 14%, which means he's not upholding the Constitution a heck of a lot, but it's still a blue state, right? We still consider it a blue state. How do you win in a blue state?
Well, like I said, I am a former Trump official, so I'll be running side by side with the president. Unlike Elizabeth Warren, I actually am an enrolled tribal member. My father was the first American Indian to fly a jet, and I was a replacement candidate in 2018, and I carried 25% of the tribal vote when no Republican had ever done better than 10%. And unlike my likely opponent, Ben Ray Lujan, yo puedo entregar el mismo mensaje en español. And that is going to be something that they're not expecting. They're not expecting a Republican to go out to the tribal areas, to go out to the predominantly Spanish-speaking areas and carry forward a message of liberty and prosperity. The Democrats have no answer for it. Democrat failure is the reason that we have 56% unemployment on the reservations in New Mexico. And I developed a plan in the Trump administration that will bring $2 billion to New Mexico, $40 billion nationwide, and it won't cost the taxpayer a single dime. The Democrats have no response to that. And you add to that the fact that New Mexico is the late-term abortion capital of the Western Hemisphere. We support, the New Mexico Democrats support abortion up until the day of birth and beyond. It's actually official state policy supported by the Democrats that if a baby survives an abortion attempt, the official policy of the Democrat Party is to toss that baby in the sink and watch it die. And many Democrats had no idea that that level of barbarity and depravity was at the core of their party's positions. You add that they're trying to confiscate guns right now at the legislature. So I think you're going to have a lot of people that might technically have a D after their name,
Yeah.
but they believe life is precious. They believe that shall not infringe means shall not infringe. And so I think that we're going to actually have I think that the president's going to win New Mexico, and I think I'm going to win the U.S. Senate race.
You're pro-life. You are pro-Trump, pro-strong economy, pro-liberty, and pro-strong borders. And you can do so bilingually, obviously. Gavin Clarkson, that's with a C. GavinClarkson.com is the website, GavinClarkson.com. If folks would like more information or possibly help Gavin try and take the land of enchantment and bring it to the United States Senate. Gavin, thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube. And call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.